In Ecuador, the impeachment trial against the president Guillermo Lasso under alleged embezzlement charges is set to get underway at the Ecuadorian parliament. In Argentina, the ruling Justicialist Party holds its Congress to define a strategy for the general elections scheduled for October 22nd of this year. And South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed 6 African leaders will travel to Russia and Ukraine, aiming to find a solution to the Ukraine crisis. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In Ecuador, the impeachment trial against President Guillermo Lasso under alleged embezzlement charges got underway on Tuesday morning at the Ecuadorian parliament. This is the first time in over 40 years that a sitting president has had to face a political trial in Ecuador. After members of the opposition present evidence, the Constitution gives the president 3 hours to present his case and also the exculpatory evidence. Then each of the parties involved will be given up to 1 hour to rebuke. Once the president exits the parliament building, the debate will start, and since all parliament members will be given the chance to speak, this trial may take a few days. The law stipulates that a plenary session be called in a 5-day period to issue a verdict, which is expected to happen on Saturday, May 20th. For a censure motion to pass against the president, a simple majority vote of 92 representatives is required. In Brazil, former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro will testify before federal police under charges of forgery of his personal vaccination card. The indictment of the former president comes after a May 3rd house search and arrest warrant as part of a NIRE operation, a crusade ordered by Superior Electoral Court President Alexandre de Moraes relating to the inquiry of the so-called digital squads. On that day, Bolsonaro said he had never said neither his nor his daughter had been vaccinated, and he said they choose not to do so after reading the Pfizer vaccine's package insert. According to a report by Global TV Network, the forgery of the vaccination cards of Bolsonaro and his daughter occurred on December 21st, 2022, on his next to last day in office, ahead of his trip to Florida in the United States, thus violating biological safety travel protocols in both countries. In Guatemala on Monday, demonstrators gathered to denounce violations against freedom of expression following the attempted closure of the newspaper El Periódico. Guatemalan activists denounced there were threats against press freedom in the Central American country after El Periódico announced on May 12th its last edition following the arrest of its owner and founder José Rubén Zamora, who has been in jail for 10 months. Zamora, who faces up to 20 years in prison, accuses the president Alejandro Giammattei of fabricating the case against him. Guatemalan Journalists Association said that the closure of the newspaper represents a setback for press freedom and fundamentally for democracy. El Periódico had published investigations into alleged government corruption, saying in a statement that it received a crushing blow with Zamora's arrest on July 29, 2022. A scuffle in a jail located east of Mexico City left 3 prisoners dead in Mexico. At least 5 imprisoned people assaulted 3 others who, as a result of the blows, lost their lives in the Santa Marta Acatitla Social Reinsertion Center for Men. The head of the Secretariat of Citizen Security, Garcia Harfuch, informed that the director and deputy director of security of the prison were dismissed after the incident. After this accident, the authorities indicated that security was reinforced inside the penitentiary center and that they are collaborating with the Mexico City Prosecutor's Office in the corresponding investigation. And the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, held a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, to discuss national and regional issues. Guterres and Holness addressed Haiti's current social and economic crisis while describing the situation in that nation as tragic. Guterres thanked the Jamaican Premier for becoming a standard-bearer for the cause of unblocking the difficult Haitian situation. The Secretary assured that the level of gang violence has surpassed all limits and keeps the country country paralyzed. However, he recognizes that he has not been able to gather international alliances to alleviate the extreme situation. The top officials also discussed climate change.
We have discussed, in particular, the situation in Haiti. Haiti is in a tragic situation. You have dramatic humanitarian needs, you have a political system that is paralyzed, and you have levels of violence by gangs that are absolutely appalling. The number of people killed, the number of people unable to live their lives, the dramatic food insecurity problems are indeed something that needs a much stronger commitment by the international community. We have a political problem, the need to bring the different stakeholders together to find a political way for a government, a legitimate government, to be recognized by all at the moment in which that political process is successful. And we need to address the violence of the gangs.
On Monday, the United States Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen insisted on the real risk that the country will default in its debt on June the 1st. Yellen has confessed that she does not believe that they will be able to meet the obligations contracted by the government if Congress continues the standstill. The Treasury Secretary warned on May 7th that it is no longer possible to track extraordinary measures to avoid default. She has addressed a letter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Republican Kevin McCarthy, in which she warns that the U.S. default will produce an economic and financial catastrophe that could generate a world economic recession. In Argentina, the ruling Partido Justicialista, which translates as Justicialist Party, holds on Tuesday its Congress to define a strategy for the general elections scheduled for October 22nd of this year. The governor of the province of Buenos Aires, Axel Kicillof, said that they will evaluate the possibility of appointing by consensus a candidate for the presidency of the republic or calling for primary, open, simultaneous and mandatory elections. The meeting will take place at the Ferro Micro Stadium in the country's capital city and follows the decision of President Alberto Fernandez of not to run for a second term, and after the Supreme Court of Justice prevented the election of the governors of the provinces of San Juan and Tucumán. The purpose of the meeting is to unify criteria and address Argentina's main problems. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find the news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday, in New Zealand's capital, a fire ripped through a 4-story hostel. At least 6 people were killed, others fled for their lives, and some were plucked from the roof. 80 firefighters and 20 trucks battled the blaze at the Loafers Lodge Hostel in central Wellington. The collapse of the roof section prevented rescuers from searching throughout all of the 92 rooms in the hostel. Police said the final toll will not be confirmed until they conduct a methodical examination once the structure is made safe, probably by Wednesday. So far, they have rescued over 50 people. 15 were treated at the Zin, and 6 others in serious condition were taken to a nearby hospital.
Midnight tonight we were made aware that there was a significant fire in the building that you can see behind me. Our firefighters responded very quickly. There's a fire station only about a kilometre away from this location, and we brought fire crews from all over the city. Our firefighters carried out a significant number of rescues, and we're still working through the unaccounted for people. But unfortunately, this is a multi-fatality incident.
So the fire alarm went off and kind of went off forever. So initially I thought it was a false alarm, but then I sensed something was wrong, so I sort of went out, had a look around the level, saw the sort of smoke and then saw the fire engines outside, clearly I could see that there was something wrong, so just went down stairs, got out and saw the fire, and yeah, quite shocked.
The Russian government has urged the United States to complete the elimination of its remaining chemical arsenals as soon as possible. The head of the Russian delegation to a session of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, Kirill Lysogorsky, noted that 99% of the chemical weapons stockpiles declared by the convention signatory states had been verifiably destroyed, and that the chemical plants for the manufacture of such agents had been dismantled. However, Washington continues to postpone the total destruction of its arsenals, even though U.S. President Joe Biden said his country was ready to complete such destruction. The United States is the only country among the signatories to the Convention on the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons that maintains an impressive stockpile of toxic agents for military use. We move on to other topics. The United Kingdom agreed to supply a new military package to Ukraine, including combat drones and air defense missiles. The announcement was made during a visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the United Kingdom as part of a tour of Western Europe to seek support from the EU's bloc's governments. According to a British government statement, it was agreed to send hundreds of air defense missiles and unmanned aerial missiles and systems, as well as a long-range drone crew with the capacity to attack from more than 200 kilometers. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak confirmed that the equipment will be delivered within a month in order to support the Ukrainian forces' offensive. Within the framework of his tour in Europe, the governments on France and Germany also expressed their support for Ukraine. On Tuesday in South Africa, the President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed 6 African leaders will travel to Russia and Ukraine, aiming to find a resolution to the Ukraine crisis. South African President pointed out that Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to receive the mission and the African heads of state in both Moscow and Kiev. Ramaphosa also said he held separate telephone calls with Putin and Zelensky over the weekend, where he presented an initiative drawn up by Zambia, Senegal, the Republic of Congo, Uganda, Egypt, and South Africa.
I presented the initiative on behalf of these countries, Zambia, Senegal, Congo-Brazzaville, Uganda, Egypt, and South Africa as well. The 2 leaders that I had occasion to speak to, that is President Putin and President Zelensky, agreed that they would be willing to receive the mission of the African heads of states in both Moscow and Kyiv. I agreed with both of them that we would commence with the preparations for the engagements with these African heads of state. The Secretary General of the United Nations was also briefed, and so is the African Union office also briefed.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Honduras declared on Monday an indefinite green alert in 64 municipalities of the country due to the droughts that could be caused by the El Niño phenomenon. The Center for the Atmospheric, Oceanographic and Seismic Studies informed that this year the Honduran territory will be affected by the El Niño phenomenon. As a consequence, the nation will be affected by severe droughts. The Secretariat of Risks and Contingencies informed that between June the 10th and July 10th, the drought will increase, so they will be in constant monitoring to evaluate if the alert is to be extended to other municipalities. It is estimated that an average of more than 200,000 people will be affected in food and nutritional security by the drought, which represents some 51,000 families that will be assisted in the first phase. In Japan, a new demonstration rejected once again the government's plans to dump radioactive water from the Fukushima power plant into the Pacific Ocean. On Tuesday, dozens of anti-nuclear activists protested in Tokyo to demand that Japan back off its plans to release treated but still radioactive water from the nuclear power plant damaged by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami into the sea. The protest outside the headquarters of Tokyo Electric Power Company Holding comes at a time when the company has almost finished building the facilities needed to dump the huge amount of water, and there is speculation that the operation could take place in June. The plan is opposed by local communities and the neighboring countries of South Korea and China.
The Pacific Ocean does not belong to Japan. It belongs to all living things in the ocean and everyone who depends on it for their livelihoods. We are here today to send the message that Japan does not have the right to dump radioactive water. I heard that Germany is no longer using nuclear power plants. I hope that the way to suspend nuclear power plants will be discussed at the G7 summit.
On Tuesday, in western Myanmar, the impact of cyclone Mocha left dozens of people dead. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Assistance defines the cyclone as one of the strongest ever to hit the Asian country, with the city of Sidwe, home to some 150,000 people, as the worst affected. The partial disruption of communications due to the impact of Mocha makes it difficult to know precisely the damage caused by the cyclone in an area that is particularly neglected and home to hundreds of thousands of members of the Muslim Rohingya minority. The damage seems to be concentrated in Rakhine, and according to local media, the climatological event left around 400 dead. Hundreds of supporters of Pakistan's ruling alliance held a sit-in protest on Monday against alleged undue favors by the judiciary to the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The protest was mainly led by the Jamiat Ulema-e-Islam Fazal Party, one of the 13 members of the country's ruling coalition, the Pakistan Democratic Movement. The government supporters also broke through the main entrance of the capital's high-security red zone, which houses prominent state offices, including the parliament. The tensions between the government and the judiciary began earlier this year over holding provincial elections and have intensified since May the 9th, when the Supreme Court declared Khan's dramatic arrest in corruption case illegal, clearing the way for his 2-week bail and eventual release on May the 12th. And the Italian Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi praised Tunisia's significant efforts against irregular immigration during a visit to the North African country. In a meeting with his Tunisian counterpart Kamel Feki, Piantedosi expressed his full appreciation for the significant effort made by Tunisia to guard its maritime and land borders, to fight the networks of traffickers and confiscate their boats to rescue migrants at sea. Piantedosi also met with Tunisian President Kais Saied, who argued that migration cannot be solved by an exclusively security approach. Saied sought a remedy for the reasons that lead to irregular immigration and called for, as quickly as possible, an international conference to find solutions that could stop it. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok also. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada Cruz. Thank you for watching.